And hello again. After working on creating a basic Recyclview, I wanted to show you how in my current app project I implemented a Recyclview that's going to check on my database and feed the Recyclview with what's in the database at every load of the screen, meaning that when you're going to create a new entry in your database, if you go back on your page, the Recyclview is going to update in real time. And so this is what we're going to do right now. So if we were with us for the previous video, you saw us adding this basic scroller page here with a self.data that's using a list comprehension to add labels to your buttons that are going to be just iterating from 0 to 19, right? And then in my wallet, we added wallet.kv file, we added this scroller page object, which is actually my Recyclview. I'm sorry if this is confusing, it's just a current project. I didn't know about Recyclviews and this is the name I was using, so I'm staying consistent with myself at least. So yeah, we have this now. Okay, we have an app, we have a Recyclview, we have buttons, and now how do I get the informations in the database of my app in this Recyclview? And this is gonna be a little weird, maybe tedious, but this is the best scenario I found. So let's go into it. First, what I'm gonna do is reference an ID objects so that I can communicate between the Python file, the KIVY file, and the different function I'm gonna use. And so here I'm gonna go in my KIVY file, sorry, and I'm gonna give names to my scroller page object. Okay, so this scroller page object is gonna get an ID, and this ID is a scroller controller. Okay, so I'm calling this the controller of my scroller page, so my Recyclview, and then I'm gonna call it at the start of my main page definition, and I'm gonna define a name that's going to reference the scroller controller. So why am I doing this? It's because this is the ID within the KV file of my scroll page widget, and this is the name that I give to it from my main page in my Python file. Okay, the difference here is that you see that this is an object that's inside of my main page, and so it's a kind of a variable inside of your main page widget, when this is the ID of the KV files object. Okay, so basically what we want to do is use this as the ID of an object in my main page, and use this as a way to say that this is what the Recyclview class in my Python file is going to be used to communicate with my KV file. Okay, so this is from the Python file class to the KV file, and this is the ID within the KV file. I know, look into this a little bit more, but I just want this to be clear so that we can go ahead of ourselves into the Python file. So in the Python file, I'm going to change this scroller page so that now what I'm going to do is get the informations I need and feed it to my object. So I'm actually going to remove the data here because I want to put it in a separate function. Why is that? Well, I'm going to call that the Recyclview function. Sorry. And what I want is that at load, the list of wallets, which are the objects in my app, will be updated. Okay, but because the scroller page is not the page you're loading when you're getting in the page, you cannot use the onEnter function, right? This is not how it works. So what we're going to do is create a function that we're going to call later. So we're going to get my groups, which is going to be me calling on the function I created in my package to collect data. So I did a project before where I linked a database to a Tkinter graphic interface. If you don't know how to do that, you can go there or just look into any other video. Just know that this is something I created for my app that's gonna return a list of the groups that I have in the app. So the things I want to feed in my buttons. That's all you need to know. And then we're gonna do the self.data call that we did before in the init method, and this is where we're going to do our list comprehension. So remember that our list comprehension was like the actual call for the KIVY file, so text colon object. We're just going to leave that like this for now. Okay, I'm going to change it, and then it's for items, for item in my group. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to get an item for each item of my group, and feed it in my button so that the name is now the name of the different groups I just acquired there. Okay, so now we're gonna feed the Recyclview thanks to that function. Okay, so what we want to do now is actually to update the page that we're loading every time. And my main page here is what we're loading, right? In my KV file, this is the main page that loads the scroller controller here, the box layout and everything. So we're gonna say that in here, on enter, and so if you're not familiar with this, on enter, on underscore something is a core feature of lots of graphic interface packages that makes you able to call a function when there's an event in your app, and here the event is on enter this widget. Okay, star args is also something you should look into if you don't know about it, but basically we're going to take any kind of input that comes in, and here we're gonna update the scroll view, let's say Recyclview to not lose anyone, in main page every time we load. And to do this, it's actually just a one line. We're gonna do self, so my main page, dot IDs, so all the IDs that I defined in my KV file, and within those IDs I created a scroller controller ID, controller. Okay, and this scroller controller, if we remember, here is the ID of the scroller page. And thanks to that, we're able to call a function of my scroller page, my Recyclview there, which is refresh view. Okay. So now we're able to use that function every time we load in the main page. So we don't need to put the self.data in the init function, because what's going to happen is that when my main page is going to load, it's going to do that. So if you were putting it up there, it would immediately be updated, and so you would load it twice, which is kind of useless, right? Okay. Notice that I did the same thing here in my wallet update. On enter. No. This is gonna be for another another part of this project, but you can see that this is a basic function that you can call in any widget, right? Okay, so what happens now if I call this? I have a bug. Button accepts only strings, and indeed my item here. Okay, so this is not something you need to know. Like, it's just like I returned a list instead of a specific item. It's just the way I built my app. Let's get into a bigger screen, and here we are. So you can see that we have all the groups I created as a test for my app. It's here and it's working. And now if I create a new group and I call it anything like YouTube test, and I click on OK, the database was created. I go back and YouTube test is here. every time you load that page, meaning that this Recyclview is going to always update, and you can also obviously delete anything from it by deleting things from your database. So this is basically how I would do this. Maybe I'll make a small video on how to generate a page based on the data of the button. So see you next time.